Okay, take two. Camera went skew whip on the first one. We'll have another go. Okay, hello and welcome once more to the Druids Dozen. My name's John Wisby. They call me the Rock Druid, or at least some people do. And basically I'm a radio DJ. I do the Sunday Rock Show on BCFM Radio in Bristol. And I do the Rock Druid Show on internet station astroradio.earth. Links are going to be in the description. And basically this is just me dragging some stuff out of my record collection and rabbiting about it for a short while. So yeah, and before we start I want to say a thanks to Bone Salt. Got the t-shirt, guys, really appreciate it. And yeah, and if you don't know Bone Salt, sort of heavy rockers out of Plymouth, go check them out. One of their earlier videos I did a little kind of reviewed the album. So I'll just pass straight in and drag out this week's 12 from the racks. Gonna kick off with this one, a very mighty album. It is of course Pink Floyd's The Final Cut. There's the front, there's the back. Open it up, lyrics, pictures, etc. Now I know some people I know this divides Pink Floyd fans. Some people love it, some people hate it. Basically, some people even turn around and deny it's a Pink Floyd album, claiming it's a Roger Waters solo album. And they may be right. Basically, trying to think of the keyboard. They sacked the keyboard player or the drummer after this. Well, I'm not a massive knowledgeable about Pink Floyd's lineups, but anyway. One of the guys got sacked at the end of the wall. Roger Waters decided to take up some unused material that was left over from the wall and turn it into the final cut here. It's a very dark album, I'll give it that. It's kind of, yeah, apparently writing about his past and his kind of issues around his dead father, etc. Opened up a lot of kind of wounds for Roger Waters mentally, and basically he kind of let his kind of primal scream come out in this album here. It's a dark listen. It's not an easy listen. I mean, as much as I like this album, yeah, and I'm one of the idiots that do like this, I can't listen to it all the way through. It is very depressing. It's very dark. This is wrist slit central. Just read some of the lyrics of tracks like The Final Cut, One of the Few, The Gunner's Dream, Paranoid Eyes, etc. Yeah, it's a dark album, goes to places that make it for a very uncomfortable listen. A rewarding one if you want to stick with it. On the few places where I do let Dave Gilmour loose on guitar, he shines. Keyboards are done by Andy Bown, the old Status Quo and the Herd keys players, or Judas Jump and a few other bands. Is excellent. His Hammond organ playing on here is brilliant, and the overall, it's, yeah, for Pink Floyd completionists and for people that like dark music, Leonard Cohen fans, etc. Yeah, number one, The Final Cut by Pink Floyd. Okay, next up we're going to keep it prog rock, and we're having this one, Lemmus Chameleon Mood Swing. There's the front, there's the back. If I pop him open and slide this out, there's the booklet. There's no pictures of the band or something, and there's not even lyrics. This is just kind of tells you there's a bit of poetry in mind, which I don't think relates to any of the tracks on the album, but there's lots of this kind of nice kind of strange kind of almost tribal artwork throughout. Now, Lemmus, they are a retro prog band from Israel, and when I mean retro, I mean retro with a capital R. These guys are that retro that everything used on recording this album was genuine late 60s, early 70s. I'm talking about the guitars and the basses. Original Mellotrons and Hammond organs and Fender Rose pianos. I'm talking about a vintage 1960s drum kit. Everything's played through vintage amps, including Leslie speakers and your vintage Marshalls. It was recorded on, I believe, a 16-track reel tape, and the only time that kind of digitisation got anywhere near it was when it was remastered for a CD release. There are apparently album versions with just the original mastering for sort of like 1970 style mastering. Now, with a kind of recording kind of background like that, you would be correct in thinking that these guys are coming from the same wicket as King Crimson, Gentle Giant, maybe a hint of Green Slade, Quintessence, those kind of 70s kind of classic Brit prog bands. And it shows. This album, you know, if you played this to someone and told him it was released by someone like Room back in 1970, without actually knowing, you would be you'll believe them. Tracks like Better Off With You, parts 1 and 2, Silly Princess, my favourite cut is the title cut, Chameleon mood swing itself. It's just kind of it's an effective stroke through psychedelic fidelity, that's what they call it. They Lemmus kindly suggests that you crank up the volume, lean back and close your eyes. Great way of putting it. This album came out in 2004. There's at least one other album after this. Don't know whether these guys are still going, but if you like your prog and you like some obscure prog, this is one to check out. Yeah, Lemmus Chameleon Mood Swing, number 2. Now, number 3, I'm going to have to be careful about this, otherwise people are going to complain. I'm going to put my finger just there for reasons that will become obvious. Now, which makes it even look even worse, but I'm just trying to stop people jumping out, because, you know, it's one of these things where, you know, artistic maybe, but, you know, there are some creeps out there that may see this and get the wrong idea. But anyway, AIIZ, Witch of Berkeley, live. New Over British Heavy Metalers. Now, this sort of came out of Manchester. Can't remember the name of the school they were from, but they're all from mostly from the same sort of secondary school, sixth form college. Dave and Gary Owens on vocals and guitar, etc. You're a pair of brothers. Clam Campbell on bass and Carl Retty on drums. 4-piece classic early 80s New Over British metal band. They were formed in 1979, 1980, around about then. Did a demo, then sort of got around to pressing up their own self-release single, and basically, I didn't show you the back, have I? Yeah, there's the back. Track listing, credits, weird glowy pyramid thing, yeah, which is duplicated on the weird glowy pyramid thing on the front. Yeah, now I mentioned this quite a few times when I've been talking about New Over British Heavy Metal. There was a period, sort of like late 1980, 81 into 82, when following like the massive success of bands like Saxon, Iron Maiden, later Def Leppard, every record company was in the world was trying to snap up British metal bands to kind of for the next big thing. They could, you know, unfortunately for all of us, New Over British Heavy Metal became a bit of an underground movement with a few well-known faces rather than a huge kind of success. The shame, saw some great music around then. But anyway, I signed up AIIZ. Now, some bright spark, I don't know whether it was in the band or in the record label, decided for a debut album, rather than pack them into a nice studio with a decent producer, they were going to send them back to their old school with a 16-track mobile desk and have a free invite-only concert in front of a load of school kids and kind of hardcore AIIZ fans, and release that as the Witch of Berkeley live album. It didn't work. Now, the performances on this album, don't get me wrong, are great. I mean, tracks like The Romp, The King Is Dead, The Witch of Berkeley, Walk in the Distance, No Fun After Midnight, Danger UXB, they're great tunes. They're played well. However, 16-track live mobile production in a dodgy school hall with no real kind of acoustic treatment, not good. And yeah, Mike Robinson, the producer, doesn't do a particularly good job of the mix, and not even doing a post-production work at Illposh Studios in London could save this from the cesspit that it is. Like I said, for collectors maybe, but not for kind of don't buy this expecting an amazing album. This is rare, by the way, and I apologise for the condition. if you get a copy of this in mint, it's gonna set you back 40-50 quid, maybe more. Hence the reason I paid about £5 for this, because the cover's shagged. The vinyl was fine, just that the cover's a bit moth-eaten. But anyway, AIIZ, they got their Podidor got their fingers burnt on this, although they tried a similar stunt with Stampede. But anyway, with a live low-key bootleg album kind of thing. But anyway, they did release a great single after this. No Fun After Midnight. What was it? I'm the One That Loves You, a Russ Ballard track, which is a cracking tune, but that flopped. The band flopped, and they got ditched by the record label. Broke up soon afterwards. Gary Owen showed up in British heavy metal supergroup Titan a bit later. The others time in local bands and are now in the Where Are They Now file. Yeah, one for the collectors of the new wave British heavy metal rather than the casual fan. AIIZ, Witch of Berkeley live. Okay, next up we'll have this. Laura Biagini. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I apologise to Laura if I've got it wrong. There's the front. The album's Riding the Wave. There's the back. And if you open it up, this is, I guess, a folded over piece of inlay card. Very low, self-home produced kind of thing mainly. And yeah, I'll pause that there so you can pause it and have a read. Now, I don't know whether yeah, I think this is her first album. She's done several since, and I think she's still active. Basically, she's a Canadian singer-songwriter, and she knew a bit of casual piano on guitar. And one day she's on the bus coming home from work, gets a tune in her head, goes back to goes back home and starts to write the tune. That inspires her. She writes more, and basically X amount of time later she has enough of this album, and it's a good album. It's a bit psychedelic, it's a bit surf rock, it's a little bit punk in places, it's a bit alternative. It's hard to kind of describe what this is like without actually playing you a track, and I keep saying I can't play snippets on this podcast because vlogcast, sorry, only because of both YouTube and Facebook got these vicious algorithms that if they hear a couple of notes which they think is someone's tune, they'll take your video down, give you a copyright strike, etc. Put it this way, I'm in a band called Alien Stashed In. I have trouble sometimes putting my own band's tunes up on YouTube. It's that bad. Yeah, hopefully they'll see sense, but I'm not holding my breath. But anyway, just a cracking little album, very, very accessible, very fun. Under a Tropical Moon and Vancouver Rain and Crazy on Me are probably the and Everybody's Going Surfing All Over the World are probably the standout tracks, but overall there's nothing really disappointing on here, and well worth a watch and a listen. Yeah, Laura Biagini, she's still active. Hit her up, give her a look, you might like. Okay, next up we'll have a bit more new over British heavy metal. Guess what came out of the racks at the time, and there's no particular order, just grabbing these at random. Yeah, Sheer Greed by Girl. There's the front. There's the back. Inner sleeve there. And there. Just in case anyone's interested, there's the disc. Now, Girl, new wave of British heavy metalers. But now I keep mentioning that new wave of British heavy metal's not really a genre. Less informed people may tell you it is, but I'll tell you, I was there, I lived through it, I saw a lot of these bands live. Didn't see AIIZ, saw this lot, and I've seen the band that's coming up in a couple of albums' time, several times. But anyway, yeah, it's more of a kind of movement. It involved your more traditional metal bands, your kind of, your Maidens and your Saxons, but as well, you had kind of bands like Venom laying out what will become black metal, and bands like Girl and Rothschild, who we covered the other week, laying out, you know, kind of doing sleazy glam stuff. Now, this lot out of London, formed 1979, 1980, picked up by Jet Records. This is their first album. Had a minor hit single with a cut called The Hollywood Tease. And basically the lineup is Simon Laffey, Jerry Laffey, they're brothers, Phil Lewis and Phil Cohen and Dave Gaynor. Now, Phil Lewis should ring a big bells with you. Current LA Guns vocalist, been with LA Guns for years. Also did some other great stuff. The Flesh Torpedo was one of his bands, and of course he also was in Bernie Torme's Torme for a while. Cracking vocalist, and yeah, and then of course Phil Collen later on, Def Leppard, and the other guys, Simon and Jerry Laffey and Dave Gaynor, all kind of performed with various other kind of bands going through the 80s. Now, this album is great. It's kind of sleazy rock and roll. It kind of, you know, those of you that are into your bands like Poison and Rat and Motley Crue, etc., it's in that kind of vein, but this is far rawer. This hasn't got any of that American MTV polish on it. This is gritty, it's in your face. I mean, that's the difference between British glam and American glam. The Americans all kind of Hairspray and ooh yay. British bands, Girl, and later on bands like the Dogs D'Amour, etc., far more sleazy. Yeah, if kind of American glam is kind of sex in a posh hotel, these are a quick knee trembler down around the back of your local pub kind of stuff. And that's not saying anything to kind of be disrespectful to Girl or any British glam band. I'm just laying out how the differences in the sound in a way that I can describe. Now, this is a great album. Lovely Lorraine, you've got Passing Clouds, My Number, Heartache America, Do You Love Me, as I said, Hollywood Tease, Strawberries, Doctor Doctor, Little Miss Anne. Every track's are great. Produced by Chris Sangaridis, one of the classic British metal producers of from the 80s onwards. Just a classic bit of the album. They did do a follow-up, Wasted Youth, about a year or two later. However, stories rebound that kind of they're one of these bands kind of, you know, big fish in a very small pond, so therefore it was quite a feisty band to be in, apparently. So just after the Wasted Years album, they fell apart, and I already mentioned Phil Lewis, of course, going on to Torme, on to LA Guns, Phil Cohen joining Def Leppard, and the others. Mel Gaynor, can't remember who he played with, but he was, yeah, session work, and the same with the Lappy brothers. Anyway, well worth checking out. If it's not in your collection, it's a bit of a classic. Add it to it. Okay, next up we're going to go a bit of folk punk. Yeah, there's the front. There's the back. This is the Dreadnoughts, Legends That Never Die. If I pull this out, we have a little, it's a very basic book, sort of inlay card there and there. Now this lot, they're kind of folk punk, very, very heavy on the, they're quite folky, but very heavy on the punk. They're out of Vancouver, over there in Canada, and stumbled upon these in one of the most craziest evenings I've ever had in my life. So I played a band called Alien Stashed Him. We got asked, would we like to kind of play at this bill at the venue now closed in Bristol called the Reckless Engineer, and would we like to go on this bill? On the headliners were the Dreadnoughts. We heard a Canadian band, so yeah, alright, fair enough. Now these guys, I have never known a band that drink as much as these guys do. I mean, you hear about legendary rock and roll drinkers. These guys were on the ales, well actually they're on the cider. Bristol being a big cider town. These guys being heavily influenced by bands like the Surfing Turnips, or great Bristol surf punk band, cider punk band, and the Wurzels, who are legends of course, wanted to play in Bristol. They wanted to drink cider. They arrived in Bristol about 12 o'clock on their UK tour and started drinking. They weren't on stage until about 11 in the evening. Yeah, they had about 12-13 hours of solid drinking, and believe me, these guys, by the time they hit the stage, they could hardly stand up. However, they staggered on stage, picked up their instruments, 1, 2, 3, 4, and did an amazing set. They were tight, they were together. Yeah, they were in your face and anarchy and very punk, but absolutely storming set. Climbing on each other's shoulders. They got a fiddle player that was hanging around the shoulders of the bass player while they're giving it rice. They turned the Reckless Engineer wasn't a big venue. They turned it into a massive kind of jigging, pogoing mosh pit. Best way of describing it. This is their first album. Cuts on here include one of my all-time favourite song titles, and it is, and I quote, "Mary, the one-eyed prostitute who fought the colossal squid and saved us all from the certain death on the high seas, God rest her one-eyed soul." That's the song title, and it's 5 minutes of absolute fantastic kind of sea shanty driven fiddly folk punk. Amazing, the greatest thing of course. They encored with that one at the gig, and amazing. Then you got Sons of Murphy. There's almost like a cappella track on here, Roll the Wood Pile Down, Fire Marshal Willie, Antarctica, which was one of their early singles, Old Maui, Katie Bar the Door. It's just great. I've seen these guys a couple of times since, not played with them again, but I've seen them live a couple of times, and a couple of times when they come to Bristol, they've invited us Stashkin guys out as a kind of guest with them. So we did, and got drunk. It was fun. Yeah. The Dreadnoughts, Legends Never Die. Got a couple of other albums out as well. They're all pretty good, but this is my favourite for personal reasons. Okay, next up, we'll have another CD, and we'll have this one, Blackwater Rising, Pissed and Driven. There's the front. There is the back. It's a kind of digipack, opens up like this with a kind of fold out. There's the guys, there's all the lyrics, and as I say sometimes with some of these that come as promos, not all of them but quite a lot of them, I get press releases and info sheets. Again, I'll hold it there, so if you want to, you can pause and have a read. Okay, now this lot are out of New York. This album came out in 2013. I'm not sure whether, this isn't their first album. I'm not quite sure where this fits into their discography, but so it's their 2013 album. I think I've got an album after this as well, but anyway, this one, Piston Driven, it's a great party rock album. Influences, there's some old school metal in here, Judas Priest, bit of Motorhead, but it's also got some of the lighter touches of bands like Thin Lizzy, etc. Maybe hints of Nazareth in places. Tracks like Show No Mercy, the title track Piston Driven, Dance with the Devil, Just Along for the Ride, The Allure of Self-Destruction, We Are the Authority, cracking tune that one, The Broken Man, etc. It just rocks. There's not a great deal more to say. It just kind of headbangs and bounces, it bludgeons, it riffs. There's some fantastic performances on here. Trying to think of the vocalist's name. Does it say? Does it say? Does it say? I should have actually kept this out so I can tell. Yeah, Rob Trainer, the vocalist and guitarist. Doff my cap to him. Well, actually, I'd doff my cap to the playing of all the band. It's just a good, fun, heavy album. So, recommended. Blackwater's Rising, piston driven. Go get. Okay, next up, we're going to stay new over British heavy metal for this one. It's an EP. Dumpy's Rusty Nuts Rock the Nation album. EP, sorry, 3-tracker. There's the front. There's the back. There's no inlay card. There's no inner sleeve. Just this. Again, a very collectible one that I picked up. Well, I actually got this new. It's just kind of worn out through love, this one. Dumpy's Rusty Nuts. Those who don't know, they're kind of probably the seminal British kind of biker blues band. Formed 1980, 81, I want to say. Had a couple of singles. Didn't dent the charts in any way, shape or form. But because these guys are genuine bikers, they sometimes in the sit or touring in the summer, they'll send the van on with their gear and they'll drive their bikes behind the van. Seminal kind of biker rock. Did a lot of biker festivals, a lot of biker rallies. They became good mates with Hawkwind, toured with Hawkwind a couple of times, along with various other people at Status Quo. And yeah, they were just kind of fun. That's the only way of describing them. Musically, they were competent. I wouldn't say they were brilliant musicians, but they were quite good. They could hold their own, put it this way. But it was just their kind of attitude live. With kind of silly gags and getting the crowd up. The Paul Mooney's on stage. I have got my DRM Bum Flashes patch. It's tucked in the cover of one of their other albums, but when I get there I'll show it to you. But there's only one way you could get a Bum Flashes patch, and that was to flash your bum on stage. Yeah, I got mine at the Fleece and Firkin about 1985, I think. But anyway, this EP came out in October 84, and it's a kind of precursor to the I'm trying to kind of think what the album it is. I've got it over there somewhere. It might have just been the Rock the Nation's album. I don't know. Or was it the Hot Lover album? Anyway, the tracks on here: Rock the Nation, Hot Lover, Nothing to Lose. Hot Lover, my favourite DRN track, and you know, those of you that ever seen DRN live know the words that you substitute for Hot Lover. Fat person that likes intercoursing a lot. Yeah, and just great fun. Highly collectible these days. You might have to do some tracking down, and as far as I'm aware, DRN stuff isn't currently available digitally either, so maybe a bit of a struggle through collectors sites, etc. But believe me, for those of you that like your new over British heavy metal, biker rock, good fun heavy blues, this is one for you. Reaches for a CD. Yeah. There's the front. It's Cheap Trick's Dream Police. There's the back. And yeah, open it up, there's booklet. There's lyrics, there's photographs, there's sleeve notes. Yeah, there's a bit of gump about the recording of the album there. Now, this is a fairly recent addition to my collection. Because I do have this album, but I've got it on picture disc. And it's getting to the point now where kind of, picture disc, the vinyl softer than kind of standard vinyl, and I'm beginning to worry that I might be wearing it out when I play it. And because this is my favourite Cheap Trick album, I decided to put the picture disc into retirement and get the CD, because it's got bonus tracks on here as well, like the single version of Dream Police, etc. But anyway, those Cheap Trick, just classic kind of commercial US pop rock band. Quite heavy with it, but just a great deal of musically they're spot on. They got a kind of fun attitude. Cuts on here. Let's have a look. Dream Police. This house is rocking with domestic problems. I'm gonna raise hell. The writing on the wall. I know what I want. Then there's kind of live. Then there's this house is rocking. There's some live tracks as well, and single edits of Dream Police and I Know What I Want. Yeah. Originally came out 1979, and I first sort of like, before I didn't discover Cheap Trick until a couple of years later, and when I did, a couple of friends of mine pointed me in the way of this album. I got lucky in a second-hand record shop and found a picture of this version, and been a massive fan ever since. Yeah, you know, some people tell you if you get into Cheap Trick to start with the Live at the Budokan album. I say no. I say start with Dream Police, then go to Live at the Budokan. Yeah, Cheap Trick, Dream Police. Okay, next up, we have one that would have been controversial and got this video taken down completely had I shown you the original cover. It's Virgin Killer by the Scorpions. This is a Canadian edition. I do have the original German pressing, but there's no way on earth I am going to start waving that album cover around. I hide it at the back of the thing and I pretend it doesn't exist because it's a little bit distasteful, to say the least. And no, do not Google it. I'm serious, do not. People have been prosecuted for child pornography for having that, for showing that album cover, you know. But anyway, but this is one I can show, and this is probably the Scorpions' first full-blown metal album. Those of you that don't know, when did this come out? 1976, I think. Yeah, 76. There's the back cover there. There's no inner sleeve of this one, like I said, because this is a Canadian repress, reissue. But anyway, the first three Scorpions, well, the first two Scorpions albums, which is Lonesome Crow, Flight of the Rainbow, very krautrock, very psych, almost prog. Then there's In Trance, which is a bit of a transitional album, and then I think this is the one that came after it. And it's the first time they kind of settled down to do that kind of overlay twin rhythm guitar line, sort of like heavy kind of heavy rock, basically. It was the style that was to develop and sort of like hit their stride kind of with bands, albums like Love Drive and Breakout and Love at First Sting, etc. in the 80s. Band that I feel lost it a bit after that, but and I don't really like anything they've really done after about 1985, 86. But you know, I'll give them their due. Up until that point, these guys kin rocked. Cuts on this one. Besides the title track, you got Backstage Queen, Catch a Train, In Your Park, Yellow Raven, Polar Nights, The Hellcat, Picture Life. Yeah, great heavy rock album. Well worth adding to your collection if you ain't got it. But like I said, make sure you get one of the several reissue covers and be careful of the original because, like I said, it's not nice. Okay, next up we'll have a bit more punk. Yeah, now this lot are a band that I discovered a few years ago on Bandcamp. Just kind of randomly surfing, looking for some interesting punk from Spain to put on my radio shows. Eventually ended up downloading this, and yeah, and the guys have been sort of like, got in touch with the guys. We've been sort of like, never met them, as far as I'm aware they've never played in the UK, but we've been pretty good mates ever since. This is a second edition of this, because this includes their, if I turn over the back you can see there, this includes their Johnny EP, which was a separate release. The original pressing, which I've also got as well, didn't have the Johnny EP on it. And so there's the back. Oh yeah, I haven't told you what it is. It's Los Criptozoos, Danza the Cadavar. Now, I can't remember where in Spain these guys are from. I know they're going to shoot me, but I've forgotten. Yeah. Does it say on here? Castellon, that's right, yeah, which is central Spain, something like that. I may be wrong, but anyway, there's your Nay card. This lot, they're kind of very fun Latino punk. It's the only way I can describe it. They kind of sing, all their songs are in Spanish, and they just kind of boogie, they bop. It's kind of, it's moshable, but on the other hand it's very danceable. There's big kind of jazz and ska influences in here, maybe even bits of flamenco and mariachi influences in the sound. Tracks like, every single track on this album is a classic. In fact, this album originally won, when did it come out? 2015, that's right. Oh, 2012, sorry. It won our album of the year on BCFM Sunday Rock Show for album of the year. So the award we do where I get various kind of, got a panel of judges, kind of musicians and record producers and gig hosts and music writers and that kind of thing that vote on the 12 best albums of the year. This won for 2012 because it was 2013. Anyway, this won anyway, and when it came out, because it is just an amazing album, not a weak track on it. My favourite cut is the title cut, Danza the Cadavar, but you can Zig Dolent, Tormenta de Fuego, Yo Padrina, Roca de Combate. Every track on here is a classic. These guys are still going. They recently put out, bought another album after this, although it's a You Off Me, and there's also one whose title forgets me, which is basically re-recorded early demos put out, and they're apparently working on a new album as we speak. So Los Criptozoos, the Danza del Cadavar, for the punks, for the people that like dance music, kind of ska and dancey stuff. Highly recommended. Add it to your collection now. Well, actually, finish watching this video because I've only got one album to go, and then add it to your collection. And finally, there's the front. This is Onslaught, the False. This is a classic. There's the back. And there's the other sleeve. There's pictures of the Onslaught guys. God, don't they look young? Wow. That's Gricey. That's Keeler. Rocket. Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, I know these guys. I'll explain why in a minute. But God, they look young, and that's a shock. And there's the back with the it's kind of credits and lyrics, etc. Now, actually, what else is in here? Oh no, that's nothing to do with this album. That's got chucked in here by mistake. I don't know what that is. I shall dig it out afterwards. After I've recorded this, I'll drag it out and try and put it where it should be. But anyway, Onslaught's the False. Possibly the best thrash metal album of all time. I know you may disagree and think of one better. Yeah, discuss it in the comments. But this has got to be up there at the top. It was the first, say, breakthrough UK thrash album, European thrash album. I don't know. It's just kind of very musically important because I don't know, it was kind of critically praised and rightly so, and it still is a kind of a favourite amongst record collectors and thrashers and metalheads, etc. Now, this is their second album. There was an earlier album on, can't remember the name of the label, but the indie label, brought out their first album, Power from Hell. Led to them being snapped up by Under One Flag, which was a subsidiary label for Music for Nations, and recorded this. Now, at the time, say Onslaught, they're a Bristol band, and at the time I was in doing my one and only dabbling into thrash metal. I was in a band called The Covenant, and we used to rehearse at a place called Foxhole Studios, just on the outskirts of Bristol, and Onslaught at the time were using Foxhole as their rehearsal room, and when they were demoing this album. It often happens we'll be going into rehearsals as they'll be coming out, or we'll be coming out as Onslaught will be going in. There's about 2 or 3 bands kind of shared the rehearsal room, and consequently we got to know Onslaught. Onslaught got to know us, and this album and the one after it, In Search of Sanity, I actually had the great privilege of watching develop. as they kind of wrote the tracks. I mean, sometimes I feel greatly kind of privileged to be able to say this. We'll go in and the guys will be saying, hang on a minute guys, can you give us 5 minutes and then have a listen to this? And I heard tracks like Trapped Under Ice from, was it Trapped Under Ice? I can't remember. There's a couple of tracks off the next album, and stuff like Fight with the Beast off this, as it was being written. And consequently, when this album came out, Covenant, we did a couple of supports with them on the tour. By the way, we were dire. Covenant, we were absolute shite, believe me. And we didn't go down brilliantly, but that's the way it goes. But yeah, this is kind of laid out the format. Now Onslaught, of course, they've had quite a few lineup changes, and I think the only guy that's actually been consistent throughout is Nige Rocket, the guitarist. But people have come, people have gone, but they're still going. They can still churn out a new album. They've got a new album coming out later this year. So yeah, this is just a classic album. I'll give you the entire track list then, because there's not a weak track on here. Let There Be Death, Metal Forces, Fight with the Beast, Demoniac, Flame of the Antichrist, Contracting Blood, Thrash to the Death. Not a weak track. Everyone is a classic. It's far more intense than anything that bands like Slayer or Metallica or Megadeth could come out. Cy Keeler has got such a unique voice. He sounds like King Diamond's drunk a bottle of bleach, and I don't mean that in a bad way, Si, if you're watching this. Yeah, so Steve Grice, who's no longer with them, drumming on here is as tight as a duck's anus, and yeah, it is just a classic album. Maybe one of the best thrash metal albums of all time. You may disagree. I think this is definitely my favourite thrash metal album. So yeah, Onslaught, The Force. This is an essential for all metalheads to have in their collection, and I mean essential. Go get. Anyway, that's this week. I hope you enjoyed. I'll leave links to the radio shows down there on YouTube, there or there, one of the two, in Facebook. Feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell your mates. And yeah, and all you record collectors out there, keep collecting. So yeah, until next week, peeps, and I'll be back with more. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Got the hiccups. Well, yeah, rock and roll.